Everybody, welcome back to Bayou Time. I'm Harry McCulla. We'll talk a little bit about, summertime starting, the likelihood of home building projects, those kind of things, and increased potential for contractor fraud. And for that, we brought in a couple of guys from the Lafourche Parish District Attorney's Office. You guys, of course, work with Christine and Russell. And, of course, it's David Melancon and Greg Stahlnecker. Thank you guys for being here.
Yeah,
we appreciate it. So, Dave, let's start with you. You're Public Information Officer for the Parish District Attorney's Office. Is this that big of a problem that we should be looking out for at this time?
Sure. Well, we're seeing it happen in other parts of the state. And it wasn't one of those things where we put this out there because we're dealing with it on a high level right now. It's more of a, if we are dealing with it, you're already a victim. So let's try to show people some steps that they can take, some preventative measures that they can take that's practical to prevent them from falling victim to contractor fraud.
Yeah, well, what are some of the laws, Greg, if you don't mind, that y'all can use specifically to kind of look out for this?
So under residential contractor fraud, it could be several different things. First off, there's a 45-day window where when payment's done that you have to have the job completed unless the contract states for longer periods of time that the work can be continued, or if they make a misrepresentation as to the work that they're doing. It could also be that they're actually not licensed, bonded, or insured by the state, or maybe even their subcontractors aren't licensed, bonded, or insured. These are all things that we can look at that constitute fraud in Louisiana that you may not think of as typically fraud.
Yeah, right. And Dave, I guess a lot of times when we think of fraud, a lot of times we think of, oh man, you had a hurricane in here and there's people that come from everywhere to help out. Is that this time of year, does that stuff happen, or is this in general?
Sure. Well, I think people go where the work is. And usually with a hurricane hitting an area, there's work. People need to repair their homes and their property. So you have a flooding of the market, and with people who haven't taken years to build the reputation, and maybe they don't have all the paperwork in order, and they come and do a job, and because there's so much, they may have a really low price, and so people jump on an opportunity to get a discounted rate, and then they didn't do their due diligence to find out if they were licensed, and so they may not do the work right. They may do part of the work, they may demand money up front, and they get paid, and then they leave state, and then there's no way to track them, especially if you didn't get good contact information. You have no other information other than, oh yeah, I used these guys, we shook hands and we agreed on a price, and they didn't do the work and I gave them the money. Well, it's a lot more difficult to hold somebody like that accountable, and unfortunately we're in Hurricane Alley right here. So that's really the main reason why we're wanting to put this public service announcement out there, just to encourage people to slow down, really think about what you're doing, and just because somebody is the cheapest doesn't mean they're the right person to go to, because you may be a victim of fraud, and we may never be able to remedy it, especially if there's no paper trail for us to lead us back to those doing it.
Well, look, especially when there's a big issue, when there's a big event, right? You can't find people. I remember after Katrina, you couldn't find anybody to do your roofs. And so I know these contractors are under a little bit of a bind too, because they can't find workers, and the workers they're all over the place. They're migratory a lot of times going for these events. So sometimes the contractors get in a bind, but sometimes those contractors will it'll go downhill, right? So what are the rights for a homeowner in that case where a contractor may build a house, he doesn't pay his subs, then they put a lien on your house?
So when you're dealing with anybody that you've contracted to do work, what you really want to look at is getting it in a contract form first, so that you don't have any kind of problems with that, like a lien coming down the road, whether it be from them or their subcontractors. But as soon as you start having a problem with a contractor, you need to contact local law enforcement so that it can come to us, so that you're not going to perpetuate the cycle of being a victim. Because what a lot of people don't think about in these situations is it's not just you, like you said, in the big scheme of things. It's usually a lot of other people that are experiencing the same types of situations that you are. You didn't plan for this hurricane to come through and damage your house or anything like that. So it could be a small improvement in your home that you're having these contractors come out, or it could be something catastrophic and you're rushing, and you may not be thinking rationally as to I need to check this person out beforehand. But the first thing you need to do is you start experiencing problems, contact local law enforcement, contact the Louisiana Board for Contractors to see, make sure they have their permits and things like that. And you can get in touch with them and say, hey, this contractor didn't fulfill their duties. You know, what steps do I need to take, you know, specifically besides contacting local law enforcement?
Right. Dave, that also applies to shoddy work. You know, obviously if they just take your money and move off and then you get a lien or something, that's one thing. But if they just do bad work and then take off, is that similar?
Well, it really just depends. I mean, you are talking about a gray area. I mean, there are specific elements that it has to meet in order for it to rise to the criminal level. But you may have a civil case, but that's not what the district attorney's office does. But as Greg mentioned, you know, if you feel you are a victim of some type of contractor fraud, it does not hurt to contact law enforcement. You can contact, if you live in the area, you can contact the Lafourche Parish District Attorney's Office. We'd be happy to speak with them. I know Christine Russell makes herself and all the assistant district attorneys available to meet with the public just by walk-ins. They'd be happy to talk to you to let you know, is this a criminal or is this a civil case?
And you guys will usually, you know, we've got about 30 seconds here. You guys will also, if there's like a series of fraud, like people are taking advantage of elderly, or you guys will also let people know. But there's nothing like that right now that we should know about.
No, but as you just stated, the elderly are, you know, a prime position to be taken advantage of, as well as, you know, when a catastrophic events happen like a hurricane. So it's really important that, you know, the elderly are aware of, you know, the rights and things to do as far as preventative measures. Like David said, contacting local law enforcement, contacting our office, looking on the Louisiana websites for the contractors to make sure that they're licensed, bonded, and insured.
Well, guys, I appreciate it. Greg, David, thank you guys for being here, and appreciate the Lafourche District Attorney's Office looking out for us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll be back with more Bayou Time right after this.